It's January 14th, and the strange side of history awaits. Today, we have a global war shaped behind closed doors, a revolution fading into paperwork, and a promise of peace. Let's begin. On January 14th, 1943, the war paused, just briefly, in a city far from the front lines. Behind guarded doors, at the Anfa Hotel in Morocco, the Casablanca Conference began under the veil of absolute secrecy. The world's fate was being discussed in a whisper. Franklin D. Roosevelt and Winston Churchill, surrounded by the Allied chiefs of staff, knew that if this meeting was discovered, bombers could easily erase them in a single strike. Inside the hotel, a decision was made that would ensure the war would only end one way. Roosevelt announced a chilling policy: unconditional surrender. The conference sealed the fate of Europe. Rather than storm France immediately, the Allies would choose a slower, blood-soaked path through the Mediterranean. The invasion of Sicily, Operation Husky, was approved, quietly delaying D-Day and condemning thousands more to die before liberation could begin. Plans for a Pacific War were refined, China was promised support, and a permanent joint command structure was created, locking the Allies into a single, unstoppable war machine. When the leaders finally emerged, nothing looked different to the outside world, but behind those closed doors, terms of victory and unimaginable loss had already been decided. On January 14, 1784, the war that created a nation ended, not with cannon fire, but with ink quietly drying on parchment. In a hushed session, the United States Congress ratified the Treaty of Paris, legally closing the chapter on the American Revolutionary War. The fighting had already faded into memory, but this moment severed British authority for good. Outside the chamber, no bells rang, no crowds gathered, yet for thousands, the consequences were immediate and terrifying. Loyalists who had supported the crown suddenly became enemies of the new republic. Property was seized, names were written down, and families vanished into exile, fleeing to Canada, Britain, or the Caribbean. Neighbors turned on neighbors, and old alliances became liabilities overnight. For many, January 14th wasn't the birth of freedom, it was the beginning of their terror. On January 14th, 1967, at the Golden Gate Park, an estimated 30,000 people gathered for an event that they would call the Human Being. Officially, it was billed as a gathering of tributes. Unofficially, it was a public challenge to everything mainstream America believed is normal, moral, and controlled. The event was conceived by artist Michael Bowen, who envisioned uniting fractured fractions of the Bay Area underground, anti-war activists from Berkeley, psychedelic experiments, poets, musicians, and spiritual seekers. Groups that normally clashed suddenly stood shoulder to shoulder. There were no barricades, no tickets, no central authority. Music drifted through the air while speakers openly rejected war, capitalism, and traditional family structures. To the older generations watching from the outside, it looked chaotic, even dangerous. To those inside, it felt like the beginning of something irreversible. That single afternoon ignited what would become known as the Summer of Love. No one there knew exactly what they were starting, only that nothing was ever going to go back to the way it was. Another day, another strange bite from history. Like, comment, and subscribe. Your next eerie dose is just a day away.